feedback here on The Voice, WEEU, and online, WEEU.com. What a broadcast. What a crowd. Give yourselves a hand. This is amazing. We got full house on the Judy Schwenk. This is amazing.
It is truly amazing, Mighty Mike.
And that tells me people care about this issue.
This is, as a lot of legislators say, ground zero for the issue of property taxes.
It hits home with them.
Started in Berks County, and it makes sense here. It really does.
It really does. We're here at Boyer's Floor Covering at the Pittstown Road in Laureldale. EyesOnPennsylvania.com, EyesOnPA.com. They're helping to sponsor this, and a lot of mom and pop shops, small businesses, wanted to be part of this, Judy, because they believe in this cause.
They do. You know, I meet with a lot of small businesses, particularly over the break. Have been making sure that I make my rounds on that, and they're generally in support of this. They see this as an opportunity to expand their business. They recognize that sales taxes might increase, but they will also see an increase in business because people will have more expendable income.
Definitely. Again, we're talking with State Senator Judy Schwenk, Democrat, Senate District 11, and you're one of the prime sponsors. As we've been talking all morning long, we are closer in the Senate than we are in the House. 23, that's the closest we've been so far.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's very, very
we're
close.
3 away, and I know you've been working with some state senators in the Philadelphia area. You've been having conversations over the summer months. Tell us how those are going.
Well, they're actually going fairly well. They are, you know, they're facing a crisis of their own right now. They have like a $45 million deficit in their school funding. They're worried about whether they're going to open the doors on the schools. So certainly this is an issue that matters to them. They realize they can't property tax their way out of this. But they're facing that situation. They're taking a hard look at the numbers and what it will mean for them. From what we've calculated, they would see an increase by going to this plan.
Yeah, and I know for many years it was always the wage tax in Philadelphia, but Mayor Nutter, they're trying to think of new creative ways to try to raise revenue, and now they're going to the homeowners, the property owners. So now, all of a sudden, it is a problem in Philadelphia. It is a problem in Pittsburgh, where years ago it might not have been, but now those areas are affected. So that's why we can get support statewide.
I absolutely agree, and in those places that you talked about, they already have a higher percentage of sales tax than we pay for the rest of the Commonwealth. And if they're interested, that's telling you that they get it, that there's got to be a better way to fund our schools.
Top of the hour news break, we were hearing from some of the taxpayers that are struggling right now to pay their school property taxes. You told one of our listeners off the air about a task force here in Berks County. If you're having problems, you're struggling paying your taxes. Can you tell us about that?
The individual that we talked to is facing a short-term problem. And what the Berks County Bar Association has done is formed a task force to assist people that have issues with a home foreclosure that they're facing right now. And it would be worth your time to at least call them and see what you can possibly do to help avert that. People need to stay in their homes.
Berks County Bar Association.
Concerning.
And for the other 66 counties, they can look up their bar association?
I don't know if they have the same kind of situation, but I do know that exists here, Mike. And Mike, another thing that I wanted to talk about is, I'm looking ahead. I'm thinking we're going to make it. We're going to get this done. But one thing we have to do is we have to look at school funding. We've heard a lot of people talk about the inequities of places in Pennsylvania where they have far fewer students and they're getting more money than we are necessarily in the more urban areas, like parts of Berks County anyway. So one of the things that I have done is to introduce a resolution, and I had done this before, to put in place an advisory commission to rethink Pennsylvania's funding formula for schools. What we need to do is make sure, of course, that we fund schools adequately. It's important to all of us. It's important for our economy. But in order to do that, we've got to change the law in Pennsylvania. Our Pennsylvania school code goes back to 1949. Things have changed.
Needs to be updated, doesn't it?
Needs to be updated. And that's going to be an important piece of getting this done. We have to convince people that we can actually make this work, right? And to do that, we've got to be sure that we can fund schools.
Is that part of SB76, or is that something?
No, it's something
totally
separate.
different. What is the name of that one?
That is, what's my number on this? Just a minute here.
By the way, while you're looking that up, can I get the phone numbers out? Folks, if you want to call in, you had a question or comment. I know we have a busy show. We've got a lot of special guests. But give us a call, 610-374-8800. out of the area, anywhere in Pennsylvania, 1-800-323-8800. What's the name of this bill?
Well, actually, in the last session, Mike, it was State Resolution 333. We do not have a number yet until we get co-sponsorships in. Once I get that, I'll make sure that I inform you. Right now, we've got about 18 people signed up, and I just put this out last week.
Okay.
So that's pretty good for the Senate.
Keep us posted on that one. Also, when you're coming over here to Boyer's Floor Covering, there's a video camera, guys, outside. It's off the air. We're trying to get testimonials. They want to document the problem here so they can take it to our governor. They can take it to the leaders in the Senate and leaders in the House and show them, hey, we're not making this up. This is a real problem.
I think that's critically important. They need to put a face with the problem. They really need to see real people and look them in the eye like we do as legislators. And when you hear somebody say they're making a decision whether to pay their taxes or buy their medicines, that gets you.
That breaks my heart.
It gets to you. You really do understand the issues that people are facing. It's just not fair.
Definitely. State Representative Jim Cox. Jim, you wanted to tell us about the meat of this. Give us just the basics on HB76, the School Property Independence Act, the Elimination Act.
House Bill 76 and Senate Bill 76 are identical pieces of legislation that accomplish one goal. They go about eliminating the school property tax by primarily by raising two taxes. We increase the sales tax from 6% to 7% on things that we're already paying the sales tax on. We also increase the personal income tax up to 4.24%. By increasing those two taxes, we bring in a significant amount of revenue. It's not enough to get us across the finish line, and so to do the last 15, 20 yards, if you will, we also have to tax some things under the sales tax that we haven't been taxing in the past. Simple things like candy and gum are not currently taxed for whatever reason. We're going to reach out and say, you know what, you buy a Snicker bar, and I love Snicker bars, I love M&Ms.
So do I.
M&Ms are my thing. If you ask anybody, you'll know that. But you tax M&Ms, I can pay the extra tax if it means that people around Berks County and around the Commonwealth aren't paying their school property taxes. It makes sense. And the reason this works is because we're spreading out that burden on so many more shoulders. The number of homeowners around the country has shrunk in the last several years due to the foreclosure issues and everything else. So when you've got a declining base in the number of homes owned around the United States and in Pennsylvania specifically, where are you going to go? You've got to take that same tax base that's shrinking and you've got to put a heavier burden on them. That's what school districts have begun to do. We've got to find a better way to do that. The sales tax means anybody who purchases virtually anything in Pennsylvania, whether you're here to visit or you're passing through on your way from one state to another, you're going to help pay ours for our school funding.
Anybody have a question here? Anybody in the audience, if you have a question, come on up to the microphone. Don't be shy. Come on up, ask a question. In the meantime,
Jake, Jim, and Carla.
We got a full bank of calls back. Let's take a phone call, but then I want to ask you, what's the next step? It's Labor Day weekend. Kids are back to school. Can you believe it? Where did the summer go? But what's going to happen this fall? Let's go to the phones and let's talk with Jake. Jake, good morning. Where are you calling from?
I'm at your facility. I'm in the crowd outside.
Oh, you're outside. You couldn't make it inside. Thanks for coming out, Jake. What's your question for our representatives here today?
Well, I just wanted to make a point of it.
Go ahead, Jake.
Well, besides the obvious unfairness, the main issue, the obvious fairness of a man saving and working his entire life and then not being able to keep his house because of taxes, and the other issue of discrimination against older people on fixed incomes who have a hard time paying their taxes. First of all, instantly, overnight, homeownership would become more attractive. That would increase housing construction, and that would give jobs, more jobs for everyone. And so you could see the chain of events this would set in motion that will have a huge boost to our economy.
Sounds like a no-brainer to me, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Jake. Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely, and it's statements like those that Senator Schwenk and I hear all the time, that this makes sense for me. I can stay in my home, spreading out the burden. Economy, you talked about it earlier. The economy is going to be infused with a tremendous amount of money because all of a sudden people are going to have money in their pockets. They're going to go to the businesses. They're going to buy more. They might buy a new car more frequently. They're going to buy a flat screen TV if they've been holding out for years.
They can finish their basement. They can put a pool in the backyard.
And not
They can
worry
fix the
about-
roof. They can buy that other car they can go on vacation. That money
Absolutely.
stays in the local economy, guys. That's a win-win situation, no-brainer.
Absolutely, and that's what we've been saying it for years, and finally around the state we've been getting other reps to sit down and actually take a look at it. I think the growth in the number of Senate co-sponsorships and in the House, it's that snowball effect. They look and they say, hey, I gotta be part of this, or I'm gonna be behind the eight ball and not be able to be one of the co-sponsors of the bill before it gets some action. So that's tempting for reps and senators to say, hey, I don't want to miss the boat on this one, so I got to take a closer look at it.
And I don't want to dismiss. I really need, I see a whole crowd of faces in here, Mike, and outside, but it's you people who made this happen. You have contacted senators and representatives. I hear it from them. They're hearing from the people in Berks County, but they're also hearing from the people back in their districts. And when we hear from our constituents, you got to respond, or you're not going to be there very long. You absolutely have to hear what people say, and they have made the difference.
Never underestimate the power of one, right? You can make a difference. One
really
phone call,
can.
one note, one letter, one email.
And people have done that in a very respectful way. I know Dave Baldinger has been very clear. Every time we got a new co-sponsor, he sends out an email. Make sure you thank this representative. Tell them how much we appreciate their support. That goes a long way.
Definitely. Can we sneak in one more phone call, Mitch, before we take our next break?
Jim.
Jim is up next. Jim, good morning. Hi, Jim. Where are you calling from?
Renovo, Clinton County.
Great. Thanks for listening to Clinton County.
Okay, just a quick one. If there was no property tax, people would fix up their homes. Right now, they won't fix them up because they get taxed more. That's going to generate jobs and money. There may be 3 people living in a home. Only one's paying the taxes. The other 2 are getting away with not paying anything. So you'd earn more money into the state if those other 2 people were taxed. So that's
Great point.
Yeah, and the sales tax is fine too. But those 2 there, we're losing income or revenue because the other people aren't paying.
Jim, it is a problem in Clinton County?
Yeah, there's a petition going around to have the change to income and sales.
Okay.
And that's the way it should be. There's too many elderly here that have to go live with their kids because they can't afford a $3,000 a year property tax. And they don't fix their homes anymore because they get taxed on it. Very bad. We need to have these homes fixed up in Renovo. It's a depressed area. They won't fix them because they're taxed if they do.
Hey, I appreciate the call today. Keep up the good fight.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Let's squeeze in one more. I know you said there are 3 people on the line. Mitch, who's the third caller?
Carla.
Hey, Carla, good morning. Welcome to Feedback. We're broadcasting live at Boyer's Floor Covering in Laureldale, just outside of Reading, Pennsylvania. Where are you calling from, Carla?
I'm calling from West Reading right now. But
Wonderful.
Resident of Exeter.
Gotcha.
My question, I fully support the property tax reform, but I recently learned that there is part of this bill where the property taxes would not fully be eliminated until schools are out of debt. So I was wondering if that could be explained, because my concern is I don't foresee that the schools will ever be out of debt.
Jim, you want to talk about that?
Sure. One of the things when I began taking a closer look at this, I didn't want to introduce the exact same bill. Einstein once defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I knew I had to retool the legislation when I got a hold of it. One of the things I heard consistently very early on was they didn't like the concept that was included in the earlier version where we took over debt for school districts all around the Commonwealth. People had some questions about whether we could even constitutionally do that. And so as we walked through the legislation, David Baldinger and I started to peel out things that didn't make sense or things that would be hurdles to us. That was one of the things that had to go. But in order to do that, we had to figure out what to do with that debt. So the decision was ultimately made that we were going to leave school districts with enough school property taxes to pay off their existing debt. Now, if they have 10 years left on a bond issue, then property owners might see a small amount of property taxes remain for those 10 years. Once that debt was eliminated, though, they could not utilize the property tax to fund anything else. We also lock in the debt. They can't incur new debt going forward. So whatever debt they have in place, legislation right now says as of December 31st, 2012. When we pass this bill, we're going to choose a date that is already passed and say, all right, that is the date, whatever debt was in place, that's what they're allowed to eliminate or allowed to pay off through their school property taxes. but they're not going to be able to increase the debt. It's not going to drag on forever. There may be some school districts that have 20 and 30-year bond issues or whatever that they've got to pay off. We can't help that, but we had to have a way to address those concerns, and that was a way to do it.
Carla, does that make sense to you?
It does. It still scares me, especially with the pension issues and stuff, with that crisis too, because I kind of see this being looped in with the property tax issue too.
Well, that's another whole can of worms, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But that does explain that a little bit more.
All right, Carla, and you like the school tax elimination bill?
Oh yes, I think we need to eliminate the taxes. I just didn't know how that was going to work if the taxes would still be in place until the schools were out of debt.
Good question.
And Mike, if I could elaborate on it just a little bit. In doing our research, David Baldinger and I discovered that the average school district debt is right around 10% of their entire budget. So if you're looking and saying, all right, 90% of my school property taxes are going to disappear, I'll have about 10% of a property tax bill. If you've got a $5,000 property tax bill now, can you handle paying $500 per year for the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it takes to pay off that school district debt? That's really the question. You're not looking at paying your full property taxes for the duration of those, for that length of time. You're looking at paying a portion, and the average statewide is about 10% is what their debt service is.
Okay.
Carla, thanks for the call.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Okay, what's coming up this fall, guys, and what can we do? What can the listeners do all across the Commonwealth?
Continue to reach out to your representatives and senators. I know we're going to continue to talk to people. Everybody has been talked to in the Senate. It's only 50 of us, so certainly that has been done. And I'll continue to take a leadership role in trying to talk to our senators that still aren't on this to help them understand. But it sure helps when you send a letter, folks out there in Radio Land, in the audience, and help get them to understand how important it is.
Is there a website that we have a list of all of the co-sponsors?
I think David Baldinger is keeping his pretty current.
PTCC.us, PTCC.us, eyesonpa.com. I think they have one as well.
I believe so. And if I can add to what Senator Schwenk was saying, one of the things that is so important, and I get people who call my office from other parts of the state all the time, one of the things that's so important for people who already have a representative or senator who's behind this legislation, the best way you can be a salesman, and the people here at Boyer's Floor Covering can certainly tell you this, they want people who know their product. They want people who really know what they're selling. And so in the same way, you have to really know what you're talking about. Learn the details of House Bill 76 and Senate Bill 76. Learn how it functions. Learn the answers to some of these questions that are being asked today, and have those ready to be able to be answered as you're talking with other people around the state. When you contact your college friend from 20 years ago or 50 years ago, as the case may be, when you reach out to a niece, a nephew, an aunt, and uncle, whoever around the state that you can reach out to, have them contact their state senator and their state rep and make sure they're on the bill. But you've got to know the product. You've got to know what you're selling. And so that's been the biggest challenge, I think, because it's not an easy issue. It's fairly complicated. The concept is simple, but there are a lot of moving parts. But we can get this across the finish line. We've seen 38 taxpayer groups around the state grow to 81. That's no accident. People are very interested in this. Let's keep that ball rolling, and I think we can get it across the finish line. I don't care if Senator Argle's bill passes first or the House Bill 76 passes first. I really don't. I just want to see this get done so we can get Pennsylvanians to keep their homes for the rest of time, as long as they're able to pay their basic expenses.
Let's get her done.
And jumpstart Pennsylvania's economy.
You got it. Senator Schwenk, Representative Cox, nicely done. Keep up the good fight. Give a hand. Thank you so much. We're going to take a break. We're going to have more Boyer's Floor Covering on the Kutztown Road in Laureldale. It's all about the school property tax elimination bills today on feedback. House Bill 76, Senate Bill 76. If you have a question, if you have a comment, give us a call, 610-374-8800. Out of the area, toll free, 1-800-323-8800. We also have a lot of listeners online today, a historic day for feedback, WEEU.com. And we appreciate that. We'll take a break. We'll have more right after this.